what we tried to do was limit the potential damage that could have been done. And so I think the key was limiting the number of potential sales. Knowing that that it was roughly 10% of sales for 1 year, that was the maximum amount of loss that we could sustain, made it a deal that we could risk. A lot of the negotiation beforehand was kind of loosey-goosey. It was our rep was a young guy. Clearly, we never met him, but he was, could tell from talking to him that he was a young guy. And a lot of the questions we would ask, he would come back and he would have a little rap that he would go into, a little story he would tell about how we want you to succeed. And so the business about the editorial coming out and our being able to correct factual mistakes, and they're wanting it to accurately represent us, was all it was all hearsay. It was all done by Ben assuring us that this is what they had in mind.
But he did, it did happen.
And so beforehand, there was a little bit of risk in believing that,
right.
Because as I was saying before, while I believe that Groupon wants their merchants to succeed in general, each individual merchant can't be that important to them. So you obviously have to watch out for your own interests.
The biggest risk after all that was done, once we controlled everything that we could control, was having no idea what that editorial was going to come back, and contractually knowing that we had very little to say about what it's going to sound like. When it came out, we were blown away. We were blown away about how really they just got us.
Right.
In that very quirky Groupon speak, they got the fact that they were promoting us as a tour company. Just like if you were doing a tour in New York City or a tour in San Francisco or whatever, that's what they were promoting us as, which is what we are. Because, even though we were promoting a winery tour, we have all different kinds of tours. And they got that and played up on what we do is a value-added tour experience as opposed to a drinking experience. There were a couple places where I was concerned, but then pleasantly surprised. Number one, there was like, what if these are nice customers and they take away from the experience of our other customers?
Yes, right.
That did not happen. In fact, the blend was perfect. The other situation was in terms of displacing full-paying customers. I don't know, maybe really because it was all in the timing. That we promoted this as a March Groupon, and Groupon gives you very clear statistics on the redemption patterns of their customers, and it was amazing how right on they were. They said like 50% will redeem within the first month, which for us meant not necessarily redeem, but at least schedule, and that's what happened. The 50% scheduled in the first month. We knew when they were going to do the tour, and then the other 30% will come at the end, the last month, right? And then the rest will be picked up in between. And that's exactly what happened. I remember Groupon customers coming in and saying, I've always wanted to do this, and so this gave me an opportunity to do it.
Right. And I remember several saying, I would never have done this on my own. My daughter bought it for me, and I was not really a wine appreciator, and so
now I'm definitely coming back.
Right,
or others coming saying, well, I've come to the Finger Lakes before and done it on my own, and but this is so much better. I would say very comfortably that these people were not people who normally come and find us.
And another subtle effect was that, as Laura said, there were the early adopters, so to speak, the ones that redeemed early and at least scheduled further into the summer. And because we do our tours on demand, and it forced us to commit to having tours on days, weeks in advance when we might not otherwise have committed to having those tours. And we had this effect where if you build it, they will come. We had this effect where, because we had these scheduled tours and they were already committed, it was easier to sell to other people. And we've talked about this in the past, but we never really had the gumption to say we're scheduling this tour on this day. But this sort of forced us into it, and indeed it worked. Go in with your eyes open, for sure, and to do the due diligence to think about your market, your model, your business model, and how it applies to you. I think it really depends on who you are and what you do and how their demographic applies to yours, and whether your product lends itself to that kind of marketing.
The thing is that they do value little you, and they know that all those little companies are the reason that they're there, and so do not be afraid to say, we need this and we want to do it this way.